And we're back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from PCC Multiverse, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts, and on radio stations worldwide. Shout out to all your radio stations that have been, big
Massive.
claps for you.
The
Yes, who have,
biggest.
and some of them I've been with for years. And you know what, Melinda? I have no idea how they're still with us after all these years. I'm surprised we haven't embarrassed them. So, big thank you and big shout out to you for sticking with us for all these years. My God, I was looking at the time. It's like going on 8 years of doing these shows. So,
Wow. Congratulations. That's huge.
uh,
Seriously.
they-
Congratulations.
are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it.
Okay.
Totally.
All
100%.
right. Okay.
Congratulations. I mean, welcome to the pain as well, but yeah,
Okay.
congratulations.
Okay. I had red hair when this started, and I'll just leave it at that. But
Right.
it is, of course, the PC Multiverse. Thanks so much for watching and listening. It is Gerald Glassford. Please, if you can, like, share, subscribe. That 5-star review, it's always helpful to us, and we cannot thank you enough for supporting us any which way you can right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without my compadre in crime. Indeed, she is the evil mastermind behind everything that she does to ruin and, I guess, sabotage Robbie Ross's life. Oh, yeah, and the game too, as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. As far as Vampires and Vitae and everything that she's doing with Wild Beyond the Witchlight and all that. But it is a good friend indeed. It is, of course, Melinda Barkhouse Ross. Melinda, my co-host in crime. It is great to have you back. Looking forward to a great conversation. Looking forward to, well, maybe you're not looking forward to seeing what the mess is after the Oscars this past weekend.
Yeah, those predictions. Whoopsies.
Whoopsies indeed. I know I had a couple flubs myself, so we'll go ahead and talk about that on today's show. Plus, we thought we would devote a lot of time to the spring and summer movie schedule. Melinda and I will go ahead and break down, according to the current movie schedule, some of the movies that we are interested in and why, and plus also which movies might become a hit. So, because I'll discuss that later, why that this movie, I guess, this period outside of Deadpool does not look like it's a sure thing at all with any of the upcoming pictures. And we'll explain why coming up here in the show as well. But my friend, it was the Oscars. And we did agree on one thing. We did agree that there would be one movie that would probably take a nice lion's share of the Oscars, because that seems to be the trend these days. Sharing the wealth doesn't share as much as sometimes people would like. This year, it was all about Oppenheimer. I'm not going to say they were wrong. I said it was one of my better movies that I enjoyed out there. I know you said you liked it too. It's one of my, as far as better moments in pop culture for 2023. I don't know if it was the best picture of the year for me, but you know what? It was well done, well made. Whether or not you want to go ahead and say Christopher Nolan was just like, it's like, okay, finally gets all of his flowers sent to him and whatnot. It was epic enough. It did come off the back of Barbie and Barbenheimer and all that stuff. It did rise to almost $1 million worldwide. And I think it deserved a lot of what it got.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really begrudge a movie like Oppenheimer for winning as much as it did.
Yeah.
Really, you can't. We like to poke fun because it never seems like the Academy gets it right all the time, but I think this year they did a pretty good job.
They did a pretty good job. And again, I don't think there's any, even although there's no winners that you can say, wow, they just ripped off somebody else. They all did a great job, an outstanding job. There's no slouches in any of the winners at all. I mean, obviously Oppenheimer winning Best Picture. There was no true movie that I thought of the mix that was just like, okay, it had to win and didn't win. I mean, last year we were so passionate about Everything Everywhere All at Once. That
Yeah.
was like a no-brainer. That had to win. I think the Jamie Lee Curtis, even though she's outstanding actress, I thought that her win was the most surprising of all
Hmm.
year.
I
Uh,
think she felt the same way, to be honest.
yeah, and especially here in Vegas as well. I will say the odds were different, swaying in a different area. But this year, there was no huge surprises. There was no, oh, wow, that came out of left field from what I saw. I mean, was there any, before we go into break down each one, was there anything out of left field for you this year? I don't think, even the things that you didn't get right, you know what? I could see that happening.
Yeah, not really. I mean, even the things that I got wrong, I for it was as much for the conversation and not agreeing with all of your picks, that I
I think you just like to disagree just because it's me. I think you do.
you and Robbie get the same very special treatment.
Oh, I feel
No, I'm
blessed.
just yeah. But no, I think that there weren't really any surprises. For me, I think there were a couple of things where you were like, "Oh, that would have been kind of cool if it had gone that way," but I don't think that there was anything too crazy. I'm glad. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name now. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Well, let me
Hang
go just go
on.
ahead. So I'll say again, Oppenheimer, that one for Best Picture. Cillian Murphy for Best Actor. I thought his performance was really good. I don't know if above Paul Giamatti with the holdovers. I think that was the other co-favorite coming in there.
Yeah,
You decide whichever one you want, but I
yeah. I
think
don't know. I
that's
don't know that.
that's a wave momentum. Cillian Murphy was riding a wave of momentum that couldn't be stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as you could tell that he did not enjoy all the press junkets, it paid off a little bit, I think, for the Academy.
It did, it did.
Yeah,
But he's a guy that deserved the spotlight, deserved after
yeah,
many years of either fronting smaller films, because you got to remember he's the guy that starred in 28 Days Later. And
right.
that, that's going to be evolving into, I think, a 28 years later, some type of scenario like the Danny Boyle's finally going back to it. But yeah, he went and became a leading actor in smaller stuff, to Peaky Blinders, to being a co-star in several major motion pictures, but never the leading man. So he finally talked about in those press junkets about him becoming a leading man. And this is what happens when you get that opportunity and you take hold of it and you grab it and you do it for all it's worth. So yeah, big props to him. Big props to
Yeah,
him.
absolutely. I was thrilled for the Godzilla movie. That's one that I haven't seen yet.
Mhm.
But I was glad to see best visual effects go to a movie that kind of had that as the foundation of the movie. That was nice.
Godzilla plus one, and
Minus one.
it's Godzilla minus one. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to say
That's
plus one.
okay.
Well, it's plus one Oscar. Godzilla
Right.
minus one is the big winner for special effects. It
Yeah.
tells me two things: that they wanted to go ahead and reward a smaller project
Mm,
that didn't have the kind of budget that these 100 $200 million movies that are made, $300 million movies that had. But they also wanted to send a message that there was nothing good enough as far as special effects wise that would beat a Godzilla minus one on such a minuscule budget. I think there was
right.
like, for instance, if Dune Part 2 had been or had stayed in its August time slot or
Mm,
release slot, I think it would have won, but it didn't. So it goes on to next year's platform. So with that said, I think that there was just with Godzilla minus one, it was just such a great effects movie, and if you see it, you're just amazed because you should have that in your mind about how small a budget that they have, what they were able to do with it, and with as we'll talk about with another Godzilla movie coming out here in a couple weeks that has a $200 million budget. It's kind of interesting to see how Godzilla minus one still looks better
yeah.
than Godzilla defeat Kong. So
I mean, it's funny what a lack of budget will lead to with a little bit of ingenuity. I mean, look at what it did for the Paranormal Activity movies. I mean, that was fishing wire
yes.
for most of that movie,
Look at
and
Star Wars, the original Star
well,
Wars.
yeah,
They didn't
absolutely,
have the biggest budget in the world, and look what
yeah,
they were able to do with that for practical effects. So
yeah, yeah. Maybe the big budget is the problem with the Star Wars movies now. Maybe they just need to hack it back and.
once you go down that rabbit hole, see what's going on. I think it's more about storytelling, Melinda, when it comes to Star Wars. And
Of course, I was being cheeky. I promise.
you okay, I will not go there. But anyways, you and Cheeky are not far behind as far as the cheekiness is concerned, but it is Melinda Barkhouse Ross along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. It is the cheeky Melinda Barkhouse Ross. But I wanted to ask you this: when it comes down to it, the definite winner, the biggest favorite of all, was Divine Joy Randolph for her
Yeah,
role as best supporting actress in The Holdovers. I thought that was no brainer, no competition. It was going to go ahead and come in and steal that one. She was the largest favorite here in Vegas for winning the Oscar. What I hope is that, because we've seen roles and actors and actresses take roles and get on the best supporting actor, they get that one shot, and then they're given, or they get movies and get roles that you kind of like question, they don't. I just hope that she is given roles and given opportunities to really expand on her great talent, as opposed to what the tendency is, or what the temptation is, to quote unquote cash in
yeah.
and never find yourself in a really exploratory role again. I just hope they give her the ability to continue her great talent going forward, if that makes sense.
I think so. And if her acceptance speech was any indication of the type of person and the type of actor that she's going to evolve into, I think that she is going to specifically seek out those kind of roles. So I hope that that is something that she continues to do moving forward. I mean, absolutely make the cash grab movies once in a while, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Honestly, but no, I think that I think she's going to be around for a long time. I think she's got a big career ahead of her for sure.
And I guess as long as you can find a balance between the
Yeah.
cash grab movies and those movies that allow you to really explore your talent,
Hmm.
I think that will keep you, not, or any actor or actress, doesn't have to be Divine Joy. It's any actor or actress. As
Yeah.
long as you weigh the good with the cash and you continue to go ahead and balance that out throughout the course of your career, you will have a long career where you're in front of the public eye and continue to get those great roles. And
Yeah.
because I've seen before, you and I both seen before, we're now at a period of time where we've seen before actors or actresses get that one moment in the sun, and then they try to cash in, and then they're lessening, and then all of a sudden you see them on those straight to DVD movies as the best that they
Yeah.
can do and get best they can get. So it's just it's a cautionary tale in Hollywood that I have seen many times before, and that was the only thing I would say to Divine Joy is just please, obviously cash in, obviously
Mhm.
get what you can, but try to also, if at the same time, find some roles that will really explore the great talent that you have.
Yeah, like I said, I just think that her acceptance speech was a really good indicator of where she is and what acting means to her, and I think that that alone is a great showing of the kind of projects that she's going to continue to take. So
RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., absolutely no question on that. I thought Mark Ruffalo had an outstanding performance. His fellow
hmm
Avengers, there you go,
hmm
um, had a great performance in Poor Things. I actually kind of preferred Mark Ruffalo, but I understood, it's the RDJ season, and
right,
obviously, Iron Man or whatever reasons why they voted for him. As far as it's concerned, it was a very solid performance in Oppenheimer. And again, riding that Oppenheimer train was no doubt. I do want to say though, the best actress again, Emma Stone, who was brilliant in Poor Things. Wow, that was obviously something of a little bit of surprise. I think if any surprise, it was that one. Although there was kind of like 50-50, 40-60 people. Lily Gladstone was taking a slight lead as far as being a favorite, but Emma Stone does not need any slack as far as her performance in Poor Things. I thought it was a very brave performance. I thought it was a
Hmm.
very risky performance, and it paid off with an Oscar for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that what we were just talking about with Divine, I think, is that the chance that both Mark and Emma took with taking Poor Things. It looked like a movie that was really challenging them as actors. It, like as you said, you have to salute and acknowledge the bravery that it takes to take on those roles.
I thought it was slightly better than Oppenheimer as a whole as the movie, but then again, there's just it did not continue that momentum that Oppenheimer did, but it did win its a couple awards as well. It's a great film, and hopefully people get a chance to check it out now that's on video. I want to Christopher Nolan obviously won for best director. What are your thoughts on best sound and the best internet in the international movie as far as the zone of interest? That is a haunting movie, and I think that people need to go out of the way to find it to refamiliarize themselves with why that period of time, and just
Mm.
they just need to go ahead and remind themselves of how horrific a time that truly was, and understand that. I think, and the zone of interest, especially if you're playing it on a Dolby system of some type,
Yeah.
it is definitely haunting in its own ways.
Yeah, I think that Zone of Interest is a movie that is there to serve as a reminder for those of us who have, like we've come after the boomers who were the kids of the people who fought in those wars. And as we get more and more and more removed from it, I think it's and I don't this is not there's no disrespect meant here, but I think that it's easier for us to forget about what and how truly horrible all of that was. And I think that movies like this are important reminders because of the way that it just lays it out on the table, and you realize that you just would have had to have dealt with this if you were in the house across the street. Like it's shocking, it's heartbreaking, it's all of the things that it should be, and it reminds us of the absolute terror of war and how it's just not something that the world should be flirting with as much as it is right now.
Once again, it is Melinda Barkhouse Ross along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We're recapping the Oscars fallout, and some of our predictions that were right, and some of our predictions that were not so right.
Right.
But yeah, you can go ahead and listen to last week's episodes and see which ones are not right. But I will say though that American Fiction as best adapted screenplay and Anatomy of a Fall was best original screenplay, both very well deserving, both excellent movies. Although some people that were behind the Barbie train are a little bit upset that it didn't get a thought there. It only got one Oscar,
Yeah.
and that was for Billie Eilish's song in there, which again I didn't think was the best of the three songs. It's a good song.
Right.
Actually heard it several times on my recent trip to California. I still think the Dua Lipa song or Ryan Gosling song, which he
Right.
performed live and has now gone viral, those two songs I think were the better Barbie songs. All three are good. I just think that was my choice on there. But your thoughts on the adapted screenplays and the screenplays period, or also as well the fact that Barbie only got one Oscar
I'm
from it.
not surprised that Barbie only got one Oscar, truly.
Okay.
And I think that in some ways I think that the Academy and members of the Academy would have just looked at the pink bubblegum and that's as far as they got with the movie. And that's truly unfortunate because I do think that part of the success of Oppenheimer, at least as it relates to Barbie and then being in the theater at the same time, was the Barbenheimer meme. And to see Barbie just kind of be taken as a film that was so important to a lot of women and just be almost kind of like put on a shelf and forgotten about when it came to the Oscars was disappointing. But I also do understand, um, why that may have been a film that was overlooked, unfortunately.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
So, if you look at it as a theatrical film,
Hmm.
if you obviously the messages of empowerment and just absolutely, sensational, encouraging, for women out there. My daughters and my wife have got a lot from that movie, but
Hmm.
as a movie, it's pretty good. It's pretty
Right.
damn good, and I
Yeah.
really think people miss the point, that
Yeah.
really want to go ahead and target certain things that are said and done, or what it's all about, or stance, or whatever. Just check it out as a movie, and I think you'll like it, and as a movie. Lifted's asking for favorite movie soundtracks of all time. I would
Purple
probably say
Rain.
Purple Rain, there you go. Absolutely. One of the best selling and the biggest movie soundtracks of all time. Sound of Music, obviously, as well. I would probably say Batman from
Mm,
1989.
yeah.
And
Which
this
Prince
one,
wrote, by the
yes,
way.
but one that you should never underestimate, South Park, bigger,
Mm.
longer, and uncut, which is actually getting a theatrical release this year, in a short, I think was it, it's getting a short window of release. It's on a special time. So yeah, if you're interested in South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut, and actually seeing it in theater as I did, and it's the reason why I called it one of the best movie musicals of all time, and then you should go ahead and check it out when it appears, hopefully in a limited number of theaters on, I think, a one night only basis coming up later this year. So check it out.
Oh, another movie soundtrack that's really good, and I had the CD for it. I bought it digitally, like I have it in several different versions. Is the soundtrack to the Baz Luhrmann's take on Romeo and Juliet? Solid,
Mm.
so good,
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's the Leonardo DiCaprio version. Yes,
that's right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very right in the middle of the 90s. You got
Hmm.
grunge, rock. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely had some good stuff in that. I remember that distinctly. That's something I think one of these days we should just talk about the 90s, because everybody fantasizes and romances the 80s, but really, the 90s and the 2000s, how much are they remembered in pop culture? Something we're gonna have to go ahead and maybe discuss on a future
I like
episode.
that. I like that.
We'll discuss it, because
Hmm.
sometimes
Hmm.
that period of time, that 20 years seems to get kind of
Glazed over a little bit.
plays little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, but we'll go ahead and talk about that at another point in time. I do want to ask you, though, before we head to the half-hour break, want to ask you this in regards to The Boy and the Heron, which is actually returning to theaters, getting a wide release. Congratulations to Miyazaki. If this is the last film, although again, I still bring the pro wrestlers attitude that there's last matches may not always be the last match,
Right.
but this is his last film. He is a two-time Academy Award winner with this, and also as well Spirited Away earlier in the century. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant movie. The thing is, though, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I think obviously as well, a lot of people were hoping for that one victory. But again, I thought there was so much sentimentality for
Yeah.
Miyazaki. I think that
Hmm.
it was going to be hard for them to resist. And people now get a chance to see why once again, once it gets hits out the theaters here, I think in a week or so.
Yeah, it's a movie that I haven't seen yet, so maybe that's the one that will get me back to theaters. Well, I mean, Dune is going to do it eventually.
Better. 'Cause
I know. I can't allow another Dune movie to go without seeing it on the big screen. That's so silly that they
IMAX.
didn't do the
I'm gonna
first
do
one.
IMAX. That's my next time. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do part two this next week. It's gonna be in IMAX, and I'm gonna be all the more happy on it because it is such an outstanding movie. But is speaking of outstanding movies, The Boy and the Heron. Congratulations to Miyazaki on that one. Miyazaki-san is absolutely deserving of everything that he's getting at. I will say, though, the one last thing, The Last Repair Shop, best documentary. If you want to get a chance, I believe it's free on YouTube if you want to get a chance to see it.
I think
So check
so,
that.
and he's from my hometown,
There you go.
Mr.
Absolutely.
Proudfoot, a Haligonian.
There you go.
To tell
Absolutely.
you that Halifax is incredibly proud of that achievement is a ridiculous understatement. So, I right now am writing news and recording newscasts for back in Halifax. And to say that it was wall to wall coverage of his win on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of last week is an understatement. It means so much to the city, and they're so proud and they're so happy. And I think that there's going to be a lot more great stuff coming for him.
I believe so as well, but it's such a great storytelling on, as far as it's in
Yeah.
the Los Angeles School District. It touches on as far as kids in the community and what they do. And I,
Mhm.
I love the fact that they had one of the kids up on stage helping
Yeah.
to accept the Oscar. I
Mhm.
don't know if that kid like 20, 30 years down the line will realize or remember that moment, but yeah, it was just seemed like an awesome moment to have the kid, one of the individuals in the movie. But yeah, it's on YouTube, so please check it out. Free, absolutely. So just
Mhm.
enjoy it. That's The Last Repair Shop. Last thing I want to touch on is the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. The wonderful story of Henry Sugar. We've always, you and I, thought very highly of the work of Wes Anderson.
Yes.
Didn't kind of like this Asteroid City aside. I know it was kind of like people loved it, people didn't like it. I kind of was like on the didn't like it side because I thought it went off too far on a tangent. I thought it was too in love with itself.
Right.
My personal thing, although I do love Wes Anderson movies for the most part, this was his better effort for me. I did catch it on Netflix. I do think it's definitely worth your time, and I do definitely think it's worthy of the award because it's something I think a lot of people may not have checked out. It's
Right.
short. It's not that it's only half an hour, 39 minutes. I'm looking here on Wikipedia now, and I really had a chance to go ahead and check it out, and it's enjoyable. It actually stars a star from our upcoming movie, Deb Patel, which we'll talk about here on our release schedule. But yeah, the wonderful story of Henry Sugar. I think people need to check it out. Have you been able to catch it on Netflix?
I haven't caught it yet. No. There've been a couple of movies that we have in our queue that we're getting ready to watch. We just haven't had like the family together time to actually sit down and kind of digest some of those movies. And movies have become a big part of our family time. So we've got a few that are in our queue that we've just been saving for the right evening when we're all home and we're all ready to sit down and watch some movies. So we do
Okay.
have some catching up to do.
So it's just a half hour.
Yep.
So if you go ahead and check it out, 39 minutes or so. But yeah, just go ahead and check it out if you get a chance. It is the wonderful story of Henry Sugar, available right now on Netflix. But any lasting thoughts on the Oscars outside of, man, I wish I would have gotten Gerald's goat and picked a couple. But any last thoughts on the Oscars before we head to the break?
I mean, really, the Ryan Gosling performance, bringing out Slash. I mean, that was so great, and just the amount of viral content that has come out of that to me is a great indication of how much the Barbie movie was truly loved, despite only getting one award at the Oscars. So it's the people's favorite. I think I'm gonna go with that anyway.
Okay. No
Mhm.
John Cena jokes before we head on out?
To make him continue to make him the butt of the joke is just it's not necessary at this point. I feel.
Okay. I get you. I get it. I
Uh,
get it. I
yeah.
get it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's so funny though. John Cena, he gets all these roles. He takes all these roles like Nikki Stanicki right now on Amazon Prime. I just think we talked about cashing in to talent.
yeah.
Cashing in right now. He's cashing in, and I'm not sure
Well,
I'm
yeah.
digging that.
Yeah, absolutely he is. And really, I mean, look at the roles that he has played though. They've all been a little quirky. They've all been pretty offbeat. So maybe that's just the kind of project that he's drawn to at the same time.
I guess so, but again, I think but then I see him in all these other smaller side projects that look like he filmed in a weekend, and
Mhm.
it's like, all right, cashing in.
Yeah.
Not like he's hurting after all these years in WWE. Well, he is hurting physically, but maybe not in the pocketbook. But yeah, it's
Right. Yeah.
Ricky Stanicki. Sorry,
Mhm.
see, Jen. That's how memorable it is to me right now. It's like Ricky Stanicki on Amazon Prime. Go ahead and catch it if you want, but I tried to watch it, and yeah, there you go. But I digress. It is, of course, the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thanks so much for watching, listening. How were your thoughts on the Oscars? Please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, we're back with Melinda Barkhouse Ross and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. It is on the back end. We'll be going ahead and previewing the movies upcoming for the spring and the summer. This is what happens in a week, Melinda, where there's not a whole lot of big news coming around, unless you consider The Bear stealthily getting a season 4 renewal while they're still filming season 3. So they'll be filming those back to back. But again, that's just a success of The Bear. But yeah, not a whole lot of big news going on this week in pop culture. And so we thought we'd touch on some of the stuff that's coming out here in the not too distant future. I did mention The Boy and the Heron getting a wide release after the, I guess, what did you say, the success at the Oscars. Funny how it's coming out on the same week as Luca, which Luca, as you know, was I don't want to say a casualty of the pandemic, but Disney's mindset on just sending it straight to Disney Plus. Now it's getting a release. They've tried to do this with a couple of the other films that came out straight to video, that's straight to Disney Plus. They're now trying to do that. Is it too little, too late, do you think, for movies like that?
I think so at this
Yeah,
point. I mean, those movies are 3, 4 years old, and
yeah,
people who wanted to see them have gotten Disney Plus and have watched the movies. So that's about as far as I think it's going to go, because I don't think that at this point parents have watched Luca probably 1,000 times at home, and the last thing they want to do is a night out at the movies, paying all of that money to go to the movies to see a movie that they've already seen a million times and
yeah.
probably had to put on pause when they left the house. You know.
True, true. So we'll see what happens. But the big movie of next week is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I don't know. Ghostbusters, and I think that's something that Josh and I will touch on in Facing the Franchise. Your thoughts on this? Because I have many when it concerns Ghostbusters. It's all over the place for me. I have, as someone who did see the original in the theaters and saw number 2, and then, everything going forward, I did see the all-female cast in the theaters. That didn't go over so well, but the
Mhm.
Ghostbusters revival this time around, the first time around, went well, obviously, to create a sequel. I don't know. Sony is just really adamant on having you watch Ghostbusters at some point in time in your life. Your thoughts on Ghostbusters?
Well, I mean, please don't get me wrong. I do love me some Paul Rudd. I really do. Like, genuinely, I adore him. I think he's a wonderful man, but I just don't know that I can get behind this. I'm not sure what the disconnect is, but I just don't feel excited about the movie. I don't feel really connected to the
I
fandom
agree.
that much anymore. And I'm not sure what that disconnect is, but it's just nothing has come out that's really made me care about it too much.
They're bringing the old Ghostbusters back, like Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson,
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd. But yeah, it's just they've done that before, so
Hmm.
it's not like it's a big super thing. I just, again, New York is being threatened. New York is being threatened. New York is being threatened. Man, New York is always being threatened. It's an easy target. If the Avengers aren't, dealing with it, the Ghostbusters are. So I don't know.
Hmm.
It's again, Ghostbusters has been like an up and down thing, and maybe I'll go ahead and talk to Josh about that with Facing the Franchise on Sunday's episode. But yeah, Ghostbusters, we'll see what happens. It is, of course, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire comes out on the 22nd. Also, Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. We're seeing how popular she is right now, coming off of her romantic comedy that was a big success, and Madam Web that was not. So I
Mm.
think she's at a precarious point where she's choosing some roles, maybe not in her best interest again. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's rough. When you hit that little rough
cash
patch.
grabs.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, is it a cash grab or is it just bad advice?
it could be with her, but she's a very talented actress. I know everybody is, admiring of her looks and all that, but she is a talented actress. She did very well in Euphoria. and I'm hoping that she will get a role that obviously equates her talent as well. So we'll see what happens. But Immaculate, we'll see how well that does in that horror movie. But the one limited movie I wanted to go ahead and ask you before we go into the movies that are coming up later in the month. You Can Call Me Bill with William Shatner, the documentary that's coming out.
uh,
How many people is he actually going to piss off doing press for this movie?
everybody. That's what he does.
Okay.
That's that's part of the stick with the shot, man. that's
Yeah.
just that's part of his thing now. And I don't feel like I'm upset with him about that though for some reason. And I don't know why I've just accepted that about him. It's funny.
It's yeah, exactly. I just wish he had just made up with all the various members of the original crew before,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just attended Leonard Nimoy's funeral, just done the right things,
Yeah.
and he is still so beloved because he's Bill Shatner. He's
Right.
92, 93 now. Looks
Still
sensational.
it like still shows up to conventions, still
Yeah.
does the cattle call photo ops, still does all of that stuff. And I've seen some of the photos and he's not real happy about being there, but he's happy about the money, I'm sure.
I'm sure he is, but does he really need to do it after all these years?
Yeah,
I don't know.
they must pay him a crazy amount of money to show up at this point.
They must. It
It
must.
must be wild.
It must. So, all right, I'll leave it at that. But
Mm.
I do want to go ahead and mention after that, March 26th, we cannot. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I cannot deny that it's a sequel to a successful time around.
Mhm.
This one again, they wanted, as soon as the first one became a hit, they churned this one out as fast as they could. Uh, so it is what it is, my friend. But those were as the I guess copyright protections come off of things for like Mickey Mouse, Winnie the Pooh, some of the things that we loved over the course of many years and many decades. We will see cash grabs. That might be the theme of the show is cash grabs,
Yeah.
because this is definitely a cash grab, and this one's probably made on another paper thin budget and probably will make a nice tidy profit at the box office.
Yeah, and good for them, really. I mean, it's a movie that people have taken time to write and film and edit and costume and do special effects for and all those things. So, good on them.
Coming up on the 29th is the movie I want to talk about, after especially Godzilla minus one, which was my first flub of the day. Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. I know you've seen the trailer by now. Yes, it has the baby Kong.
Hmm.
I am so not interested in this movie. I'm sorry. Forever interested I have in Godzilla minus one and the sheer brilliance of that. Again, as I told you, they did theirs on a minuscule under $20 million budget. Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire is probably having a $200 million budget,
Hmm.
and it will probably not look half as good. That's just my opinion from what I've seen in the trailers. I'm not impressed with it. Baby Kong aside, that's just there to sell merchandise, whatever. Your thoughts on Godzilla X Kong,
Well,
the new?
I think it's like any kind of real niche fandom. I think that the people who are into monster movies are absolutely going to still go see it, and even if it's just to be able to talk trash about the movie. Like I feel like that comes with some of those really niche fandoms sometimes. So,
Okay, well, again, we'll see it. The thing is, though, it is expected to be a blockbuster.
of
Will it
course,
be a
yeah.
blockbuster? That's the key. So we'll see. And the fact that we've seen a lot of Godzilla, you know,
Mm.
the Apple TV show, for instance, that came out alongside Godzilla minus one. So we'll see. We're getting a lot of monster flicks, and the problem is those can tire fast with audiences. So we'll see what happens with that. It is, of course, Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, coming out on the 29th. Monkey Man. It's something I wanted to talk about on April the 5th, with Deb Patel, who I spoke of earlier. And I'll be talking a little bit about this here when on the weekend comes out, uh, with our correspondent that covers Indian movies. I don't want to say this is very important for Monkey Man to be hit. It is Jordan Peele executive producing this,
Right.
but I think it's very important for the community of India, which is now the largest country in the world as far as population is concerned, to put out and have this kind of a movie become a success. After the great success of RRR, I was hoping that the Bollywood Indian movie structure could follow up on it more and better as far as getting movies to get out there, but I haven't seen those yet. Will Monkey Man, the action film that it looks like, be able to scratch that itch?
I hope so. I mean, I honestly I haven't watched the trailer for it yet, but I'm just reading the description of what the movie is about, and it seems like an intriguing enough plot line. I mean, we love to see the underdog finally just have enough and take it to all of the people who've been keeping him down. So, this reads like anyway, like it's going to be that kind of a film, and I'm always there for those kinds of stories.
Well, we'll see what happens with Monkey Man, and of course, I'll get more word on it here in the coming weeks as it comes out on April the 5th. Do want to go ahead and mention as well that on April the 12th is a movie that just premiered at South by Southwest, one of the major pop culture events. A lot of the stuff got released as far as two critics at South by Southwest, and one of them that people are talking about is Civil War. Civil War,
Mm.
directed by Alex Garland, who's had his share of controversial movies that he's made. This speaks for itself about a divide between certain states that become factions, warring with each other in a I guess America that is either now or in the future, set to slightly in the future. Your thoughts on Civil War coming out April the 12th?
I mean, I when a movie feels like it could potentially be predicting the future, it feels strange. I don't know. I'm not sure how else to put that. And perhaps that's just the pessimist in me. Perhaps that's spending a little bit too much time scrolling on TikTok and looking at these different viewpoints and things like that that you're getting straight from people who are living in some of the states that have questionable things going on. And yeah, I don't know. This just feels like it might be a little bit too real sometimes. Does that I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
Yeah, no, it does. It does make sense. It's definitely touching on a lot of very nervous
mhm.
parts of our society, and
Yeah.
definitely will evoke some conversation at the very least. So we'll see what happens with that. The latest Henry Cavill movie, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, comes out on the 19th. Argyle did not amaze the masses. So I ask you, will this do better as a film from what you've seen? It's a British film set in the, I guess, right around the time of World War II, going after the Nazis. Your thoughts on the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare?
Uh, I mean, the title is a good title for a movie. It truly is. But I just wonder if Henry Cavill's niche isn't with sci-fi and fantasy. Does that, I don't see him as a guy who is going to be able to gosh, I don't know because I'm so conflicted about Henry Cavill and where I kind of categorize him in my head in terms of the kinds of projects that he usually takes on. And maybe it's because we know so much about his nerdy hobbies that I always expect and want him to be in those sci-fi fantasy movies. And when that's not what he's really turning over, then I feel unsatisfied, I guess, as a movie watcher who's has those expectations of Henry Cavill perhaps unfairly.
We'll see what happens. But then, yes, like I said, it's coming out here in April 19th. So check it out if you're interested. It looks like one of those Dirty Dozen type films that I think gets a lot of inspiration from. On the 26th, uh, Challengers with Zendaya. I know they've been really trying to focus in on this tennis film where She has, I guess, she's a top tennis player, gets an injury, then it's instructing two different gentlemen, and they get into like a love triangle. So this one is trying to bank on Zendaya's star power. Do you think it has that point of time where it will make that kind of successful run for her? I think this will be a true test to see where her box office notoriety is at, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think that it's gonna have a decent opening weekend, and then I think it's gonna drop a little bit, but then it's gonna stay consistent because, well, hopefully it'll stay consistent. As soon as we know, you know, a little bit more about her performance, and we start to see, average Joe Q public guy going to see the movie and telling their friends about what they think about it, or what have you, around the water cooler talk at work. I think that that's really going to be the barometer for the movie. I think it's going to do decent opening weekend, and then I think it's just going to drop a bit, but then stay consistent. That's kind of where I see that one landing.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Again, that's going to be, I think, a true test for her. I think she's such a great actress and already out there as far as what she's done successful
Yeah,
wise, a part of these other big budget movies, that it's not going to hurt her if it doesn't do well. So we'll see what happens. But the traditional Marvel release week, May 3rd, 2024, for the first time in a long time, Melinda, does
hmm,
not have a Marvel movie attached to
wild.
it.
Yeah,
Wild. Yes. So we now live in a world where Marvel movies are not coming out the first week of May. So will we see The Fall Guy with Emily Blunt and, of course, Ryan Gosling? With Ryan Gosling obviously getting a lot of momentum
yeah,
going with Ken. This takes some, not all, of the actual original uh, TV show, if you remember that from the late 70s, early 80s, as far as a stuntman living that lifestyle. He doesn't go bounty hunting. I guess he just solves a mystery. I guess it's some type in this one, but he's not bounty hunting like the original TV show that I actually watched back in the day. But your thoughts on the Fall Guy? It actually is been given so far, because it was actually screened at South by Southwest, but given positive reviews, mainly for Ryan Gosling's performance and Emily Blunt there as well. Your thoughts on if this can find the same success as a Marvel movie on May the 3rd, 2024?
I think it's going to surprise people.
Okay.
I really do. I think that we're about to come back into a time of Ryan Gosling and him being successful. He kind of went away for a couple of years. I think that him taking Barbie allowed him to make this movie, which I think is the movie he really wanted to make. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm anticipating it being a box office hit.
Okay. Still can't ever be a Blade Runner 2049 for me, but
Right, right, right,
we'll
right.
have to see what happens. But it is, of course, the first week of May, the Fall Guy. We want to see what happens with that. I want to also ask you about May the 10th, the week after, because the week after, another movie will be vying for that early May money that
hmm
supposedly may be there in lieu of not having a Marvel movie, and that is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. They are just running out of ways they can go ahead and put Planet of the Apes, whatever you're going to put in front of it, Kingdom of the Planet, blah, 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 I don't know, drive-in theater for Planet of the Apes. I don't know.
Yeah.
At some point, they're running out of names to give and wrap around
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes, but
Yeah.
it is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Your thoughts on this? Obviously, the animation looks good. Another $200 million special effects blockbuster that I'm going to question whether or not it, like Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire, will actually end up getting its money back. Those are the two ones I'm saying I'm not so sure about. I mean, Planet of the Apes has had a good history of good box office performance, but is 2024 still the year for Planet of the Apes?
I think the Ryan Gosling movie is going to have a bit more staying power. I think that this one is going to be a flash in the pan. I think that people who are interested in these movies are going to go. And well, I mean, depending on what that reaction is in that opening weekend, will really kind of be indicative of what's going to happen for the rest of its stay in the theater.
We'll have to wait and see, but it is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out on May the 10th. I'm scrolling down. I'm scrolling past the fact that North by Northwest, one of my all-time favorite movies, is actually coming out at limited release again. So might have to catch it again at the theaters, but we'll see what happens. Actually, a lot of good movies they're putting in limited release. It's very interesting, like Uncut Gems. They're re-releasing Spirited Away. Yeah, some really good stuff that's coming out in limited release. Please check out Fathom Events. If you get a chance, check out Fathom Events. There's a lot of cool films that they're putting on limited release schedules. I already mentioned earlier that some of them. So yeah, go ahead and check it out if you get a chance. But wanted to go ahead and mention that on May the 24th, because I think really at that point in time, May 17th, I forgot. May 17th, If, the other Ryan Reynolds movie that's coming out with him, a live action Ryan Reynolds with John Krasinski and Steve Carell. Those guys are doing voice work for those. At least Steve Carell is playing the large purple If character on that, the imaginary friends. Your thoughts, again, for every Deadpool that he does these live action movies. Some are hits, some are miss. Your thoughts on Ryan Reynolds' movie before Deadpool in If?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know that there is a chance that we're going to be, overexposed to Ryan Reynolds movies. Ryan Reynolds, God love him, but he kind of plays the same guy in each movie. Like, I can see Van Wilder in his Deadpool performance, for example, and I see Deadpool in the Van Wilder performances, and you can see that. I mean, like, even if you go back to like The Proposal that he did with what's her face there, America's Sweetheart. What's her?
As far as
With the hair. The Proposal. Her and I almost had her name. Shoot. Sandra Bullock. That's it.
Sandra. Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry.
there was even like a peppering, a flavoring of how we see Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool in that movie. So I think that when you go to see a Ryan Reynolds movie, you understand what you're going to get from a Ryan Reynolds movie, and people who enjoy that are going to continue to go and take that in from Ryan Reynolds, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that it is, but there's an expectation that you have about a Ryan Reynolds movie, and he always delivers on it.
Week after, though, coming out, just to let everybody know, on the 24th, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And this is, I don't know if it's the sequel to, but it plays in the same Mad Max universe. And it's interesting that Mad Max and the Road Warrior, that universe that evolved from Mel Gibson's early movies in Australia has led to, obviously George Miller, the director, has led to one of the best movies of the last decade, or one of the most beloved and well thought of movies of the last decade, Mad Max Fury Road. Very great film. A very, very good film. You need to go ahead and check that out. It is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Your thoughts on this with Anna Taylor-Joy, who got a brief glimpse of in Dune Part 2. What are your thoughts on Furiosa?
Well, I love her. I think that she's a fantastic actress, and that alone is enough to make me want to go see the movie, because I'm interested in what she's doing all the time.
Yes.
Like she was in The Menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good. Stole the movie as far as I was concerned. I thought that she was phenomenal. So she's one of those new actresses that's definitely got my attention, and she's definitely on my radar. So I'll support that one. I would see that movie.
Okay, but would you support the Garfield movie coming out that same day? Because that's right around Memorial Day weekend. So a lot of people are going to be out, hopefully, to the theaters. Garfield movie doing anything for you?
Garfield movie is a streaming for me. I'll wait till it hits the platforms.
Would you have some lasagna then, if that's the case?
I mean, you'd be silly if you didn't.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we get into June, and that's really when these the films start to take off. We're going to see hopefully some really good stuff as far as Ballerina, which is going to be in obviously what's going on there with the whole John Wick films relating to that. So that's something that might be of interest, trying to capitalize on that. But I guess when it comes down to it, we're all waiting for what's upcoming later that month with Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 4 comes out on the 7th of June. Are you still wanting to see Will Smith and Bad Boys this time around?
I'm not sure. I like well, actually, I should quantify that by saying I don't think I've ever seen a Bad Boys movie in theaters.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
All right. I will tell you if Fathom Events again, if you want to see the Lord of the Rings films, they are being played in limited release, all three of them in mid-June. So if you want to go ahead and put your calendars for that. Inside Out 2, one of the most emotional movies for Walt Disney Animation,
Yeah.
as far as that's concerned. It comes back with Inside Out 2. Your thoughts on Inside Out 2? Are you ready to have your gut wrenched again with some very, bring your Kleenex, I would imagine this time around. I didn't
Yeah.
bring my Kleenex and I paid the price.
You walk out and your sleeves are wet up to your elbows, right? Because you're
Yes.
just like this the whole movie. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I loved the Inside Out movie. I thought that it was an incredibly smart way to teach kids about emotions. And I think really it probably helped some adults kind of be able to talk about feelings and all of that stuff as well, which is such an incredibly important conversation that people should be having on a regular basis. You shouldn't be embarrassed of your emotions or how you feel about things. And I think that these movies are giving validation to that. And I think that as and I'm hoping that these movies continue as the little girl, I'm sorry, I forget her name right now in the movies, as she continues to grow up, you to see her emotions getting more and more complex, as we know happens. So I think that as long as they continue to remain very responsible with how they present the stuff in the movie, I don't think that it can be a miss. I think those are always going to be a hit.
Later in June, South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut does also get a Fathom Events review as far as it's concerned. A Some Time in the Sun once again in theaters. So if you want to go ahead and check it out, please do so. You'll hear my thoughts continuously on one of the best movie musicals ever made. A Quiet Place Day 1 coming out on June 28th. I just wanted to go ahead and mention that. That I think is going to be a pretty good hit. It's still capitalizing as far as a prequel is concerned on A Quiet Place. And Despicable Me 4, that is the one movie outside of what we see with Deadpool, I think has got the best chance for a big hit. I think both those films are the
Yeah.
best chance because they're the most familiar properties that might still earn a lot of cash at the box office.
And the movies stay pretty consistent. Like even if it's a bad Despicable Me movie, it's still pretty good and it's still
Yeah.
pretty fun to watch. So
Absolutely. And last movie I want to mention really because I guess what we've got Scarlett Johansson, Channing Tatum film. I think that might be pushed back. It's scheduled for July the 12th. Again, I think a lot of people, Twisters on July 19th. Some people are on that with Glenn Powell riding his wave of success. I'm not as sold on it as of yet. Obviously, this touching on the previous Twister movie from the 90s. It is, again, the fact we got to look at Deadpool at the end of July as the movie to look forward to this summer.
yeah, I agree with you. I think that that's going to be once that hits. I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of room for other movies.
So, my friend, it's been a great episode. We got a chance to preview
Hmm.
the summer box office. Again, Fathom Events movies, fathomevents.com. Go ahead and check them out because they got a lot of great movies coming back to the theaters that you need to check out. But any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yeah, I mean, even if you are on the fence and you really do think that the Barbie movie is just a bunch of, sugar coated goofiness, it's not going to hurt you to sit down and watch it. It may change your mind. I think you should give it a shot.
I think you should indeed. Absolutely agree with you 100%. It is worth your time. It is a good movie. Please go ahead and check it out on Max and wherever you get your movies. So for Melinda Barkhouse Ross, this is Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching and listening. It is truly appreciated. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day. Thank you, Jamie. Hit me up, man. We need you back on the show, brother.